let's get it out of the way straight away. Should you watch the Odyssey? Yes or no? Yes, yes. Especially if you're really into Greek mythology and you like Christopher Nolan movies, this movie is like, it's for you. It's for you. The first thing that you'll notice about this movie is how many big actors there are in this. I don't know where the budget came from, but they got budget for everybody. They got Robert Pattinson. They got Zendaya. They got Tom Holland. They have Annie Hathaway. They have everybody in this movie, bro. And the crazy thing is, there's so many people that sometimes it even takes away from the movie. Because I'm like, wait, that's Tom Holland. Bro, I come in the first 5 seconds of the movie. Slight spoiler, by the way. If you, I mean, like, it's not really gonna change the opinion of the movie, but slight spoiler alert. Travis Scott is like within the first like 3 seconds of the movie. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. One thing to note about this movie also is it is 3 hours long. It is basically a relationship. Like, you gotta put your time and effort, warm up, get yourself comfortable, get a good night's sleep. Because once you're gonna be there, you're gonna be there for a while. And honestly, that makes sense. The Odyssey is a very big book. From what I remember, I haven't read the Odyssey or thought about the Odyssey since like high school. But from what I remember, it is a big, long story with so many things to include, hours and days and just hours and hours on this story alone. So in one aspect, it could be like 5 hours long. But in the other aspect too, I feel like if you're an Odyssey fan, right, and you really, really love the story, you'll definitely notice some of the like cameos that's in the story. But you'll also be like, man, they could have added so much more. Also, this movie does not hold your hand, and that's a positive and a negative thing, if that makes any sense. So on one hand, right, it kind of shows like, okay, I don't know who this film is really targeted toward. Is it targeted towards Odyssey fans, or is it targeted toward the general fan base fans? Because lots of things that if you don't know anything about the story at all whatsoever, you're gonna be lost. Like the first like 10-15 minutes of the story, the people next to me who I know knows nothing about the story wouldn't shut up. And they wouldn't shut up because they kept on asking, oh, what's going on? I don't get it. What's this? What's that? The entirety of the first 30-40 minutes, and they left the movie and never came back. Crazy. So in one hand, right, if you know anything about the story, you'll be like, oh, I know what this is. Okay, I know what's going on. I know what he's trying to do for this movie. Whereas if you're a casual fan, you're gonna be like, oh, I don't get it. But the story is simple enough in the way that Christopher Nolan tries to portray it that by the end of the movie, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. By the other hand, I feel like people who are really diehard fans of this story are gonna be like, damn, they could have included so much more. I'll get to it more in like my whole like spoilery like thoughts about it too. But overall, by the end of the movie, I was thoroughly invested. And by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I kind of like this. I kind of like this. The soundtrack was great. There's some really strong scenes. I'm not gonna lie. Every time I see Robert Pattinson on screen recently, I'm just amazed by how he's acting. Like, he really sold me on the character that he was portraying. And I thought that every time he was on the scene, every time he was in scene or in frame, I was like, damn, that was great. That was great acting first. Anyways, now I'm gonna go to spoilery stuff. So if you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie or don't. I don't know. I already watched the movie, but if you want to stick around, I will tell you all my thoughts and opinions and yada yada yada. Okay, every time they incorporated Greek mythology into the story, it was so good. It was so good, bro. I'm telling you this right now. I loved it. Like the scene with the witch. The scene with the witch, oh my god! The whole the setting, how they're just eating the idol transformation scene when you think they're safe, they avoid the whirlpool and they're just chilling, and then you see this random creature. I'm sure, like I said, I haven't read the Odyssey in years, and I don't know much about Greek mythology, but I'm assuming people who read the story know exactly what that is. I'm sure people who saw that was like, oh, I know what that is, right? But for me, who doesn't know what that is, I was like, yo, what is that? Woo! I also wish I saw more of the son of Odysseus, because I thought that like his come up story didn't really feel like it was like super, whoa, he earned it, he deserves to be king now. Because he's the same guy at the beginning of the movie all the way to the end. It's just that he saw his father, right? And at the beginning of the movie, he's portrayed as this like rash, brash, not a man, not a kid. Like, he's almost about to be like succession for the king, but he's not ready yet. And throughout the movie, you're thinking, okay, is he gonna get ready? Is he gonna die because he's not ready? Like, is he right? All that stuff. By the end of the movie, he just becomes king. I really feel like he earned his right to being king, and I'm assuming that's just a decision that like he didn't really have much to make, just because you can only do so much with the time he's given with how big the story is. But I just wish I saw more of of the sun. Like I said, talking about more about the pacing, there were so many scenes in which I was like, okay, this is included, and I felt like it didn't need to. Or if you're gonna include it, add more context to it and make it more valuable towards the story. The witch with the witch, right? And there's a raven, and they're talking about the relationship between the witch and the raven, and it's like, okay, that's a really cool like thing to delve into. But it wasn't really expanded upon, and I know it's more expanded upon in the story. You can tell there's depth there, but he just didn't have time to include it. But what I thought was really expanded upon, that I really, really enjoyed, was the relationship between Odysseus and his crew. That whole aspect of him going to different islands, suffering, the journey, the triumph, the tribulations, them being a victim of their own causings, right? And the prophecy or the fate that we're gonna have, and you know it was gonna happen to the crew. You know it, and you just see it happening. And that whole scene with the ship and all that payoff was so good. Yeah, there were things in the movie that I wish they did a little bit more explaining. I mean, sometimes you can just like, add one and one together. For example, I kind of knew who Zendaya was. Obviously, she's Athena, right? But there are things where like that one lady in that island, if you didn't read the story, you wouldn't know who she was. You can kind of get the sense of like, okay, she kind of imprisoned him there, but I don't know who she is. I don't know what she does. And if you didn't read the book, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know, okay? And also, there are things where I wish they put more emphasis on, like Zeus. Zeus was a really big integral part of the story, and you don't realize how important he is to the story until the very end. And I feel like they should have put more emphasis about how big of an impact Zeus's lore is to the culture. Like I said, if you read the Odyssey, or you know about Greek culture, you would know how big of an impact the Zeus was to that culture, but you don't understand how it is to the movie until the very end when he talks to his wife. And it would have been nice to be like, okay, the reason why this is happening is because he did a bad thing and he is dealing with the consequences of said bad things. But it felt to me like at the beginning of the movie, things were just happening back to him because he's just reckless, right? And he's a bad leader, and he's pushing his crew beyond what they're supposed to do. And I know that is one of the intended things that he does. That's a core characteristic of who he is. But you don't know, or you don't realize that he is being punished for the Trojan War until the very end, right? And to me, that was a little weird. And I guess watching the movie, I might be able to appreciate those scenes a bit more. But until that very point, I'm like, wow, he's really bad at directions. And I know he is. And I know he is. I love how this character is getting tested, and the movie does a really good job of showing who Odysseus is as a person, how he treats his crew, how he loves his wife. When he's facing challenges, how does he view a challenge, right? His disagreements with people, how he solves problems. Like, everything about the way that the characterized Odysseus was done so well, so that when he comes up and you see the Trojan scene and you see him talking to his wife, it really hits. It hits so hard. When it talks about the Trojan and like the effects of it, right? You finally see why Steven looks like Zendaya, okay? Because it reminds of the guilt of what happened during the Trojan. It's just so good. It's just so good. And for me, that was when the movie got itself. Like, that's when the movie became like, okay, this is a golden movie, right? Because at the beginning of the movie, it was very hard to get into it. I think for me, when I got really into it was when they went to that island with the witch. That's when I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Yeah, I'll see y'all next time.